All right. New year. Kyle's not here. Still late. Still late to the show here. Classic JV Takes. Trying to finalize last minute fantasy football trade here. Yo, what's going on? Firing it in here. JV Takes a little preseason edition. Try and test out some new equipment. Got a couple different cameras here. We got the corner cam. It's not very good quality on the corner cam. We've got the good-looking camera. Well, it was good-looking until I was on it. New JV Takes logo in the bottom of the page. And I think our audio is pretty decent, too. It's be a good year for us. How about that? Culver's cam. Of course, thank you to Culver's for bringing us the Culver's cam. We'll see if I can get the YouTube chat fired up here. I don't think we do have the YouTube chat fired up. Maybe. There we go. All right. We got 4 viewers, which means my mom is here. Good. Grandma's here. Grandpa. All right. New year, same JV show. All right. Here we go. What are we going to talk about today? So I'm going to keep it pretty short for you guys. Don't have a ton going on. Basically, I've got some new technology. I shouldn't even say new technology. I've got some new sound clips, graphics, things I want to fire in there. And then as you can see, I can't move the camera because it's a little bit further away from me, but new studio setup kind of here. We got a couch in the studio. This is no longer the Hunnicky Hog studio. We've got a television here for our guests, a couple different computer monitors. Look at this bad boy. Look at this light here. Now you guys can really bask in my beauty with that light there. Is a little echoey in here. Look at that. See if this has a strobe light feature. Oh, I didn't even know it did that. All right, that's good. That's real good. Little rainbow feature. All right, back to normal. That's enough of that. Okay, no more goofing around. So, wrestling talk. We're going to get to that after I fire it in there with these new sounders here, okay? So, we have a computer software that Kyle and I have been using for the past, I don't know, since Culver's hooked us up with the computer, probably the last 12 months or something like that. So I finally figured out a little add-on within this software program where I can add sound bites. And with that in mind, Kyle is not able to be with us tonight, but I still do have a question that I would like to ask you, Kyle. So I ran into Josh Raymond the other day, and I said, wow, this guy just has beautiful hair. This is a good-looking man. So then I called up Kyle. I said, hey, I ran into Josh Raymond. He's got great-looking hair. It's nice. It's thick. There is not any gray in that. What do you think about that, Kyle?
He definitely colors.
That's what Kyle said to me.
He definitely colors.
He probably does color. What about this soundbite?
Al and Josh, they're good-looking guys.
Yeah.
They know wrestling. They're good-looking guys. But they are not 19.
They are not 19. Good-looking dudes, though.
It's a wonderful question.
It's a wonderful question. How about this one? This is for next time Kyle accuses me of only loving Chatfield and Zimbrota Mazeppa and only being fans of 2 wrestling team.
Chatfield, ZM, Zimbrota, and Chatfield. Yeah, Zimbrota ended up in bracket number 1 with Chatfield and ZM. Chatfield and Zimbrota. Zimbrota, Mazeppa, Chatfield in a matchup of my 2 children.
Yep. Giving Kyle some free evidence there. All right. We'll give him that much. I'm going to use this one quite a bit this year.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? And this potentially the most preposterous statement of last year. I called up Kyle. I said, hey, we've seen a lot of Southern Minnesota wrestling. You went to the state tournament last year and you chose not to fake sick for the first time in a couple years, which was nice. What did you think about some of these Northern Minnesota wrestlers?
I am officially on board with Section 7.
What?
I am officially on board with Section 7.
Wow. All right. Breaking news right there. Play breaking news sounder. Kyle is all in on Section 7. What about this one? So I got an exclusive conversation with the President of the United States yesterday. I called him up. We were talking about some politics. He wanted my opinions on a few different things. And in turn, I wanted his opinion. So I said, Mr. President, I know you are familiar with Cody Buchanan and Gorilla Wrestling Club. I know you're a big wrestling fan yourself, Mr. President. Do you think that Cody is right that the flip doesn't matter? Because he's been pretty adamant about this. He says the flip does not matter. You would agree that Cody Buchanan is right?
Wrong.
Oh, you think he's wrong? Okay. So you don't agree with him. He says that the flip does not matter.
Wrong.
Okay, that's wrong. The flip does matter. All right, good to know. Here's a classic.
Hey, Carl, good to see you. They are who we thought they were. What the hell's going on out here?
Gonna use that one a lot.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm.
All right, we got some good bits for this year. It's going to be a fun year. Some new technology will work in. So, all right, actual real wrestling talk. Minnesota #1 is coming up on October 4th. I will be on the microphone for that, doing the live stream. We got our buddy Eric's going to be doing the public address announcing. And then I will have a partner in crime doing the live stream broadcasting with me. I don't know if I'm authorized to break news on who that individual is. So I'm just going to say that it's one of the few people in the state of Minnesota that I have more hair than. And I'll let you guys kind of do some selective thinking from there. So I don't have information on where that's going to be streamed. I would guess it's going to be on Rockfin. I would guess my salary is going to be $0 American dollars. But as we get closer to that, we'll get you guys fired up for that. Kyle and I are going to see if we can't get together for an episode in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be able to talk about, some of the changes that have gone on up at the state tournament with the format there. Obviously, Guillotine has a new forum. Gable is fighting MMA. There's no shortage of wrestling things to talk about here as we get close to the season. So for Minnesota #1, if you are a wrestler or you are a parent of a wrestler or a friend of a wrestler wrestling in who's #1 and you would like to share some information with me and my follically challenged broadcast partner, that would be very helpful. jvtakes1@gmail.com is going to be the place you'll send it to. It's hard to kind of stay tuned in with all these wrestlers across the state. I mean, basically all these kids, the 40 kids or whatever wrestling in it, are all state place winners. But it's not the easiest thing in the world to know intimate details about the style of each wrestler and their accomplishments and stuff. So if you want to make that event the best it possibly can be, would really appreciate if you emailed us any information you have on those wrestlers in the next couple weeks. So some ideas I have from Minnesota #1. And disclaimer, this is my first time going to who's #1. So I don't know the event intimately well, but the format, I think going away from red versus blue would not be a bad idea. I think like Metro versus Outstate, right? Let us redneck farmer boys, us cornbread kids down in southeastern Minnesota take a shot at the city kids. I think that would be a fun approach. Of course, there's the juggling of matchups, so it's not always going to work out perfectly, but I think that could be a fun format. Maybe we bring in some celebrity coaches. We've got coaches to represent the North, coaches to represent the South. Maybe Al Venz and Josh Raymond coaching the team from the North, although they're technically South guys. Maybe they would coach the Metro team. Me and Kyle coach the Outstate team or something. Or if Kyle's too busy and he couldn't coach, maybe we get Jim Jackson to coach the North team. Scott Davis coaches the South team. What about this? Vern Gagne coaches one team. Jesse Ventura coaches the other. Maybe Gable Stevenson's a coach. Maybe he's coaching against the hologram of Prince or something. A couple Minnesota icons going at it. Just a couple interesting ideas there. All right, I'm going to figure out if I can screen share here. I keep the JV Takes logo. We're going to get rid of me. We're going to fire up the screen share. All right, here we go. MN Russell. Facebook page here. MN Russell is going to get some good publicity from me today and all 4 of the listeners that are watching here. Torrey Paplow stepping in for Grayson Gibson, taking on Nick Strand. Not a position I would want to be in. All right. The full lineup should be right in here somewhere. All right, here we go. Team Red and Team Blue. Owen Parrish, Beckett Edstrom, 2 of the better lightweights. I think those are both state place winners. I think we're going to see those guys wrestle for a while. Ethan Fan Manavong, state finalist. Brett Kicker of Orono. Johan Alcantara Lund against Gavin Jackson of STMA. Should be a bunch of STMA kids here. Maybe 4 in total. John Murphy, Eli Schultz, Ava Schultz, Grant Bergeron, Gavin Jackson. I think that's 5 in total. Interesting, they've got all the STMA kids on Team Blue here. So Johan Alcantara Lund and Gavin Jackson, Spencer Lee and Kane Johnson, Adam Parrish. Whoa. Do I have a touchscreen computer? How did I just do that? Preseason firing it in there. More like preseason rust. All right, here we go. Andrew Olson and Sawyer Schendel, Emery Suckup and Ava Schultz, Liam Summer and Eli Schultz. That's going to be nuts. That's going to be a good match right there. Caden Castle of Wilmer versus Caleb Kazan. I think it's Kazan of DGF. Those guys aren't in the same section. I was thinking for a second. I was like, that's going to be some Section 8 on Section 8 crime. But no, one's AAA, one's AA there. Noah Nicholson of Stillwater. Miles Wildman. Those are 2 guys I feel like they've been around forever. Nicholson and Wildman. I mean, Miles Wildman, he's probably placing at state as like an 8th or a 9th grader. These guys both got to be seniors here eventually. Dustin Skelly. Great wrestling name. Zane Engels. He had a heck of an offseason. Zane was busy this offseason. Joseph Heim. I think maybe goes by Joey. It's always fun to watch the Heim boys wrestle. Tegan Detloff of Pergam. Caden Neeson is wrestling Anthony Heim. That is like, what, the 13th match of the night. I have that circled. That could be one of the very best. 2 kids that were just huge contributors in both their lineups is, you know, from Neeson as a 7th grader at Little Falls. Anthony Heim, 8th, 9th grader, winning a ton of matches for Shakopee. Grayson Gibson, that's the one we had. Torrey Paplow stepping in for Grayson Gibson against Nick Strand. Mason Patrick, he did not lose a match last year. I don't know how Caleb Mead is going up to wrestle him. I think Patrick won it at like 45 last year, and Mead was maybe a 26. Maybe he's a 32-pounder, but I know he did end up wrestling heavier a lot because of the Fredericks brothers. So I think maybe on paper, Patrick might be a favorite there. But man, Mead just beat so many kids last year. And I was talking to Brian Witchman at the state tournament last year when Watertown Mayor was going on their run. And he said Mead might be like the most underrated kid in the state of Minnesota. But that was last year. This is a new year. I don't know if you knew that. It's a new year, new season. Jackson Barkowitz and Ivan Petrich, a couple of the better big men. They can both move. Those are good athletes. Connor Plumsky and Max Morgan. Connor Peterson taking on Parker Zutter. And then one of my other favorite matchups. So I mentioned Heim and Neeson, but Grainer and Gunderson might be my favorite match of the entire night. I think those guys, both really exciting styles, Trey, multiple-time state champ. Aiden Grainer was a state finalist last year. He was seconds away from a state title. This one really surprises me. William Ward and Kane Larson. William Ward won it at 215 pounds last year. Kane won it at 175. I know Kane is bigger than that now, but it's not like Kane was a 30 pound weight cut last year. This is, all I'll say is props to you, Kane. Take some stones. You're a better man than I am. I would not probably step onto the mat with William Ward, but I don't know. I guess I don't know if William Ward was a full 215 last year. What I do know is he only lost one match, and that was against Sutton Kenning, and then he wrestled him a little bit later, and he beat him, so not many people get their hand raised against William Ward, especially when they're giving up size. So, no, that's going to be a good match, though. Kane's a good athlete. He'll be able to keep up just fine. That'll be a fun one. And then Sutton Kenning and John Murphy, rematch of the state finals. That was a great match. I think it was like 13-11 or something. I think they definitely got the last match correct. I mean, all three of these last ones. William Ward, nationally ranked wrestler, going against returning state champion Kane Larson. Sutton Kenning and John Murphy, nationally ranked guys, wrestled in the state finals last year. Aiden Grainer and Trey Gunderson, those are two state finals type wrestlers, and it's fun to see a lot of class crossover, whether it's single A, double A, or triple A taking on double A. But where are the girls? Where are the girls? I think we only have one matchup. Yeah, we just have Suckup and Schultz. So that's kind of interesting. Also, other things getting pointed out here in the Facebook comments. Some of you guys are getting famous today on the JV Takes YouTube page. Yeah, Frederick twins not wrestling. I think maybe, I don't want to speak for the Fredericks. That might just be one of those things where, you know, what do you have to gain? You're already committed to a D1 school. You're one of the best wrestlers in the nation. Maybe in the preseason, just stay focused on your training. You know, Miklo, same thing probably with Miklo. I don't know where you get those guys a match, really. I don't know. We'd love to see him. Of course, we'd love to see him. We'd love to see him represent the state of Minnesota. MN Wrestle. One more thing here from MN Wrestle here. I saw a fun Facebook post from them the other day. I thought they were trying to get a little clickbait going, trying to get people fired up in the comments here. Who do you guys think is the best head coach in the state of Minnesota? Does not specify whether this is current or of all time. My assumption here is this is current head coaches, thus the picture of Jim Jackson. So let's fire it in here in the comments, see what some of these guys say. Some smart aleck here says Brad Childress. We're going to block this guy from the page. What an idiot. Brad Childress, terrible coach. Ruined a lot of... Here's what I'll say about Brad Childress. Phenomenal evaluator of talent. Put together some great Vikings teams in 08 and 09. Really not a phenomenal coach. I don't think he was the world's most likable dude. If you're in the comments and you're listening, Brad Childress, I apologize for throwing you under the bus like that. Mark says Scott Davis. Yep, I'd agree with Scott Davis. He's a little bit controversial, but some of these guys on top of the record books do have a little bit of controversy that comes with them just because of, I don't know, recruiting talk, stuff like that. I think with Davis, there were a couple different wrestling teams. Like when he was at his peak, there were multiple varsity wrestling events going on per day. On any given Saturday, they had a team going out west, a team going north or whatever. But I mean, if you got that much talent in the wrestling room, let these kids wrestle. Justin Miller and Matt Mosseth. Yep. Good suggestions there. Bill McDonald. Yep. Living legend. Jim Jackson. Yep. Good mentions there. Randy Baker. That is not a current one, but Randy Baker is a great one. Great point by Charlie. How many D1 wrestlers did he produce out of a tiny school? That was pretty unbelievable run they had at JCC. Still great, but when the Randy Baker era, that was different. Jim Jackson, Greg Skerrick. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Another Jim Jackson mention. All right. I like where you guys heads are at. I think you're pretty solid. Travis Holt, Becker mention. Carl Campbell. Tracy Milroy Ballatin, maybe? Out that way, out west somewhere. Section 1 guy, so not super familiar. Yeah, no, there's some good coaches. We got plenty of them here in Section 1. Should we fire it in here on this other camera? Actually, nope, we're going to go back to the screen share here for a second. Because we got this one, we got a question asked of us here. New Guillotine Forum. New Guillotine Forum. How about that, guys? Girls going to 16 brackets. When are they announcing? I do not know when they're going to announce that girls are going up to 16 brackets. I have also heard that that's going to happen here at some point. Maybe it was announced. I don't know. That's a good point. It sounds like it's going to happen. This comment here from Ankle Rider 1. Great night to take off. Didn't know you were just reading Facebook comments. All right. We're going to block that guy from the chat. Add as moderator. Nope. Hide user. Put in timeout. Ankle Rider 1, we're going to let you off easy. You get a 10-second timeout. Next smart remark, we're going to go to a minute. All right. New message board. A new message board here for the Guillotine Forum. This is right on the news page. You make it on the news page, that's a big, big deal. Well, I just lost it. All right, here we go. Guillotine has a new message board. Right out of the gates, one thing that stands out, this is unfortunate here. Respectful opinions and discussions are welcome and encouraged on the Guillotine Forum. No politics. So the old forum was the Wild Wild West. Unfortunately, now we are going to have to be respectful with each other's opinions, and we're going to have positive discussions. No politics, which is a bummer because I was just about to post about Charlie Kirk. So that's not going to happen, unfortunately. All right, the new version of the forum is clean. We are new people. I love it. Let's see what the Guillotine said here. Why the change? Tap Talk, the company that has hosted the Guillotine Forum for now several years, has gradually, now suddenly made changes that have made it less desirable to view and participate as a user and also as a message board owner. Let's use this one. Oh, no, don't have that sounder. All right. Soundboard is still a work in progress. All right. So, yeah, no, I agree with this, especially when you went on the mobile version of Tap Talk. Oh, just a nightmare. It felt like you were driving down the interstate in Texas. They're just throwing billboards, advertisements at you, just a nightmare type of stuff. But this newer version, much cleaner. So, yeah, should be good. Obviously, it's somewhat disappointing that the old conversation is gone. The old conversation might be gone, but we still have DJ63. Damn it. As long as we have Boss Man and DJ63, the new version of the forum is going to be just fine. Okay. All right. See if we have any other smart comments. I think we should be good. Production, 1 out of 10. All right. Ankle Rider 1 is in mid-season form. We like to have Ankle Rider 1 here. All right. I think I'm good on wrestling. If you guys have any more wrestling questions, that's fine. Fire them in there. I don't have a ton on wrestling. I'm going to wait for more wrestling talk until Kyle and I get together for our first formal edition of the year. But what I do want to do is fire it in there with a little bit of Section 1 football talk or Southeastern Minnesota football talk. If that's not your cup of tea, that's not your deal, class is dismissed. Go ahead, head for the halls. I'm going to fire it in there with the new Star Tribune website, which is solid. It's not perfect, but it's solid. It does a nice job here with standings. We're going to get fired up for football season. I'm going to try and get Kyle to do some more football stuff with me. We're going to try and do a little bit more of these live streams and stuff. I think we need more conversation surrounding this stuff. So firing it in there. All right. 9-man football in Section 1. This is the East District of 9 South. 9 Southeast District. Kingsland was a section finals team last year. They're off to a good start. They're 4-0. I thought they were the heavy favorites coming into the year. They've kind of proved that. The surprise, Mabel Canton is 4-0. 4-0 Mabel Canton. And I think they have a pretty dang good win against, maybe it's Spring Grove? Maybe it's LOLP. I don't remember. But they do have a pretty good win in there. Houston is 3-1, which is also somewhat of a surprise. Not surprising, though. Spring Grove is 3-1. They actually play Kingsland this week. That's probably the biggest 9-man game in southeastern Minnesota. It's the Star Tribune game of the week. And then I don't want to overlook Leroy Ostrander, Lyle Pacelli, because they were a section finals team last year. And they had a disappointing loss to start the season, but they've grown a lot. They've got the younger Hungerholt playing quarterback, who's the younger brother of the older Hungerholt. Seems like they're taking strides, and Kingsland had to beat them on a last-second touchdown pass last week. I think it was like 40-35 or something. The defenses didn't want to play that night or something. So, no, I think LOLP's coming around. I don't think you can count them out. And then these up-and-comers in Houston and Spring Grove, Houston and Mabel Canton are going to challenge Spring Grove and Kingsland in 9-man South. All right. Don't care about Metro. This isn't the Alan Josh podcast. Mid-Northwest, Mid-South. Not Brown, although there's a lot of good wrestling teams in there. Mid-South Green. Man, I hate the new Section 1, just to be honest, and I apologize for being too negative, but I do not like the new Section 1A. It feels way different. There's no Goodhue, there's no Rushford Peterson, there's no Blooming Prairie, and all of those great rivalries. Goodhue and Fillmore Central over the last couple years, Rushford Peterson and Goodhue. It's just, frankly, somewhat disheartening to see. I don't even like looking at the new Section 1A. It just makes me nauseous. One thing that doesn't make me nauseous, Fillmore Central, this team is a freight train. I thought it was going to be kind of tough for them this year. They had to replace some parts on the offensive line. They lost their best receiver, some real playmakers, but they got a young quarterback. Just a junior, was a starter last year as a sophomore. He's playing good quarterback. They've got Kane Larson in the backfield. That is a freight train of a football team, Fillmore Central's. Lewiston Altura is down from AA. They're doing all right. Southland is up from 9-man. They're kind of struggling a little bit. Hayfield struggling as well. And then some of these other teams from the west side of the world are in Section 1A, which does not feel right. This is a crime against humanity is what this is. Section 1A football. I'm going to run for president in a couple years, and my platform is going to be make Section 1A football great again. Get Rushford Peterson's enrollment down. Get Goodhue's enrollment down. Move Blooming Prairie back in. That is my political platform. Well, let's see if I'm about to get ripped here. Yeah, I'm about to get ripped here. Okay, so that is 1A. Now we're going over to purple. God, Springfield's a good team. Silver, teal. Good job with the colors here, by the way, to the State High School League. Well done. Midwest Central. North Star. I think we maybe have Byron and Casson Manorville here in the North Star, if I'm not mistaken. Byron, Casson Manorville, maybe Stewartville are going to be in here somewhere. Oh, okay, we're a little bit bigger here. So Rochester Mayo, they started off the season 0-2, but God, I think they had one of the toughest schedules to start the season. Let's look at Rochester Mayo here very quickly. Yeah, so I think Chaska's ranked second in state, and I think St. Thomas Academy is ranked first in state, and that's who they started their season with. And then they had to take on a good New Prague team and beat Northfield by a touchdown last week. So they start 0-2, then they're 2-2. They have just came down from 6A. Now back in 5A. In the last 2 years that Rochester Mayo was in 5A, they're a state tournament team. I'm still in on Rochester Mayo. I still think this is a team that could make it up to the state tournament and do some damage there. Just a tough start to the season. Let's see if we got some more smart comments. Oh, here we go. All right, we're going to take a pause from big school football. Century and John Marshall, you guys are going to have to wait here. We got a couple comments here. This is embarrassing. You know you're live, right? Still single? Question mark. Who's asking? Just looked at AA. Does Roger do football too? I need a microphone. Yes, good point. Very, very well taken, Ankle Rider. Perhaps Roger does have some involvement in the AA rankings. We'll get to that here in just a second here. All right, Northfield, they're solid. Owatonna, what in God's green earth has happened to Owatonna? This was a state tournament team last year. They started off 0-3 this year. Same thing, Rochester John Marshall. They were a section finals team last year. We were down at the ABC 6 Rochester Sports Area Banquet of the Year, or whatever the bid is. And their head coach, Kyle Ray, great head coach, by the way. They literally got head coach of the year, and part of that was the big year they put together last year, making it to the section finals. Big momentum coming for John Marshall, and now it's been a tough start to the season. Rochester Century, exact opposite story. They had not got a win in a long time. They got a win 2 weeks ago against, they beat Owatonna after having a tough time with Chaska and Tartan. And then they kind of were in the driver's seat against John Marshall before the Rockets scored 21 points in the fourth. So Rochester Century football, maybe like Rochester Century wrestling, coming around a little bit, firing it in there. Yeah. All right, New Prague struggling a little bit. They're 0-4. Sorry about that, Jill. Trojans aren't looking good so far to start this year. I'm still all in on Rochester Mayo, and I will not get off that bandwagon. If I do get off that bandwagon, it'll be kicking and screaming. All right, North Star, West Maroon. Not us. Irrelevant. All right, Skyway. This is where we have Casson, Manorville, Byron, and Stewartville, which is just bleeping insane that those guys are all in the same district and section together. Byron's the number 1 ranked team in state. They've kind of ran through everybody so far to start the season. Yep. Beat up on Faribault, beat up on Hill Murray, controlled Orono, beat up on Academy of Holy Angels. Byron's a freight train. They should be the number 1 ranked team in state. I think it's a sin against humanity that Casson, Manorville, and Stewartville are in the same section with them, but it makes sense. I mean, the state high school league has done crazier things, right? I mean, they're always doing wild things. Who knows? They might put Simley in Section 1 AA or something wild like that. So Casson, Manorville, they ended Stewartville's 30-game win streak a couple weeks ago. That's going to be a great rematch. There were some real Stewartville Bobos that were telling me how they should have won the game. They got screwed over, but that's going to be a rematch in the section semis. So Winona also having a solid year. They've just found themselves in a very difficult position with Byron, Casson, Manorville, and Stewartville. All right, now we're going to get smaller here. Southeast Central. This is just the best right here. All right, so technically this would be Section 4. These are my Goodhue Wildcats. They're 4-0. This is a freight train. This is a freight train of a football team that lost in the quarterfinals of Class A last year. They're 4-0 this year. They have controlled basically every game. I mean, they were kind of tied with Lake City into the second quarter last week, but they ended up winning 62-14. I think Goodhue's even better than they were last year. Cannon Falls was a section finals team last year. Feels like they've maybe taken a small step back. They barely beat Randolph. Randolph is solid, but has had a tough start to the season. Norwood Young America, just weird that they're even in this district. And then I think there's another team in their section that's like Rush City Brom or something weird. So 4AA is weird. Goodhue, in my eyes, is the heavy favorite, and we need to change Goodhue's name to Goodhue Belchester, the Goodhue Belchester Thundercats. What do you think about that name, Ankle Rider? The Goodhue Belchester Thundercats. Southeast Central Yellow will be the one we get to right after we're done with blue here. All right. Pine Island, as advertised. This is kind of mind-blowing to me because when I grew up, it was always Pine Island, great baseball program. Craig Anderson is the father of Pine Island baseball. They've got baseball, and aside from that, they're not too great. Never been a better time to be from Pine Island. Get on the bandwagon if you're not already on the Pine Island bandwagon. This football team put together a great year last year, made the section finals, lost to Stewartville. Stewartville got bumped from the section, though, which that's a tangent I want to get on another time. Stewartville got screwed with realignment, but Pine Island has the benefit of Stewartville getting moved out. They've started the season 4-0. They're the obvious favorite in Section 1 AAA after they had just beat Winona Cotter, who's a much improved team and likely looking like they're going to be the number 2 seed in 1 AAA. Rochester Lourdes also got moved out, which is a benefit to some of these teams fighting for positioning at the top. So if you're following along with my Pine Island story here, they win a baseball state title this spring. Football, they're looking like they're primed for a 1 seed. Wrestling, they made it to the Civic Center now 2 consecutive years in a row after not going in, 20-some years or something? There's never been a better time to be a Panther. Some people are calling it the Ellsmore plumbing effect. Winona Cotter, we said they're the likely number 2 seed. I don't know how Winona Cotter is so good this year. See, last year, they had lower enrollment. They were playing single A and double A teams, and they did not have many wins. And now they're up a class, playing double A and triple A teams, and all of a sudden they're winning football games. So Winona Cotter's made a quick turn. Zumbrota Mazeppa, Lake City, they play this week. That potentially could settle the 3-4 seed debate in Section 1 AAA. And those are both teams that score a ton of points. Zumbrota Mazeppa's got a quarterback that can run all over. Lake City's got this Heggie kid who's scored like 1 billion touchdowns this year, so that's going to be a fun game this week. And then kind of the rest of the rest in 1 AAA. 1 AA. We saved what I would call the most compelling section for last year. Chatfield, reigning section champs. They made it all the way to the state semis last year before they lost to Kyle's Section 7 crew. Let me see if I can find that sounder.
I am officially on board with Section 7.
Whoa, wow.
I am officially on board with Section 7.
Wow, ankle rider. That is...
What is wrong with you?
I am officially on board with...
What is wrong with you?
Can't believe that guy. Yeah, so Chatfield off to a good start this year. They have had some really, really tight games, though. Last week, they beat Triton by 1 because they stopped him on a 2-point conversion in overtime. Maybe it was double overtime. Maybe it was triple overtime. I don't know. They barely beat Rochester Lourdes in week 1. And then they maybe had a moderately tight game with Dover Iota. Maybe they beat Dover Iota by like 12. So Chatfield is looking like they're the favorite, but it's by just slivers of margins. Rochester Lourdes coming down from 1 AAA. They really did not graduate much. They're a much improved team. They're a candidate for the 2 seed. Most people know the story of Triton. They have had such a tough schedule to start the season. Look at this for Triton. They play Goodhue in week 1, who in my opinion, Goodhue is a top 5-ish type team in AA. They play a much improved Rushford-Peterson team in week 2. They did handle them. Week 3, they have to go on the road down to Caledonia. And this is not the Caledonia of years past, but still going to Caledonia and getting a win is one of the toughest things you can have to do in southeastern Minnesota football. And then last week, of course, they go up against Chatfield, which I will mention is the 3rd time those 2 teams have played in the last year and a half. They played in the regular season last year. They played at the state tournament. And now Chatfield and Triton in the regular season. And if they both make it to the section finals or the section semis or something, we could see Triton and Chatfield play for the 4th time in a matter of, 2 seasons, which is just absolutely nuts and awesome at the same time. So those are three great teams right at the top. Behind them, you have a couple wild cards. Caledonia, not exactly sure what you're going to get from them week to week. Same thing with Rushford Peterson, Dover Yoda, St. Charles. All these teams can play. Section 1 AA is probably one of the deepest and one of the funnest in the entire state. So, football, a little bit of football talk, firing it in there for you guys. Let's see if I can turn off my screen share, turn on no, not the corner cam. Not the corner cam. We want this one, the Sony cam. Yeah, look at that. See, look at the quality difference. Isn't that remarkable, Kyle? I mean, that's just incredible. See, that's why you invest in a decent camera. This isn't even a great camera. This is a decent camera. Sponsors. Thank you, sponsors. All right, we're going to get rid of the corner cam. Check my agenda. See if I have anything else I want to say before we shut this down. Went a little bit longer than I intended, but that's the way we do it here. Just firing it in there. And okay, so on the Stewartville note, got this message from Kyle. Yes, this is true, and I appreciate this note. Reclassification and realignment are different. You can't get screwed by your enrollment shrinking or growing. Well, here's the thing. Stewartville's enrollment went down. Legitimately, their enrollment was lower than it was the last time they realigned everybody. So the State High School League lowered the threshold to grab Stewartville and bring them up, is what I'm saying. Numbers don't lie. Ankle Rider 1. I like it when you're not here, so I can kind of just say what I want and selectively not hear certain things from you. But yeah, let's do that. Let's call that an episode. We're officially warmed up. This is the start of the 2025 wrestling season, sort of, kind of. We'll have more content coming out. MN Russell is hosting Who's Number One, stuff like that. More social media, more goofing around on that front. So, yeah. All right. Appreciate you guys joining us. Keep on firing it in there.